Hello everyone, it's Lennon, and I know that the thumbnail, what do they call it, clickbaity? I couldn't help myself, I really couldn't. Even though we're not really talking, about my collection being complete, we're actually kind of talking about my wish list and what it says about me, because I find that type of dialogue fascinating in terms of tarot collecting. And there's been a few videos like on culling and collecting. People are putting their good 2 cents in, and it's been fantastic. I know that I just watched Mixtress Rae's couple of videos on this, and they've been fascinating. They really Mixtress has some good points that she brings across. And then 3 Girls in a Deck channel with Heather, Sunset Val Tarot, and Juliet Peekaboo Rose, they talked about this and it being a controversial topic. Like, basically, I mean, if I had a view, it's what, I mean, Heather said it in that video. Do you, it comes down to like, your person, you have to be responsible and stuff like that. So this talk's not really going to be about collecting versus culling, collecting versus acquiring, or whether or not your collection is huge or not, because to be honest with you, no one else's collection, whatever it looks like, has nothing to do with me. So just putting that out there. But what I had realized was, it's been a while. It had been a while since I'd gotten a new deck. And I think the most recent deck that I got myself was a prototype of a new deck that is like one of my own decks that's on Make Playing Cards. I had to get a prototype to like make sure it felt right, make sure the cardstock was okay, yada, yada, yada. So I got that. I had to, of course, buy that myself. They don't just send you a sample. So I bought that a little while ago, and that came in, and I shared it on the channel and everything. But in terms of like new decks, I haven't bought one recently. But then I got on the website of Carnival at the End of the World Tarot. I got on the website because, I don't know, I was exploring YouTube one day, and one of the unboxings, I guess, probably one of the unboxings instead of one of the promotional videos of those deck creators, it was probably an unboxing of that deck, and I realized heavily in my soul, I was like, why don't I have this deck? Like, it's always been one of those decks that I've been drawn to, right? So that got me thinking in a little bit more of an abstract way when it comes to my collection, because at this point in time, I have a purgatory box, which is a box full of tarot decks that I don't necessarily want to get rid of, but I'm not using, and I haven't probably used in a good 6 months to a year. And it's kind of like cleaning out your closet, Yeah, if you haven't worn this stuff in a year, it goes, Now, I've always found that analogy harder for me because my weight has always fluctuated over the years. So something that may fit me this year may not next year, but then the following year I'll be able to wear it again. So the clothes analogy doesn't really work for me. But in terms of tarot decks, like if I'm really not going to use something, then I can actually put it in the get rid of pile and, have no qualms about it. The problem with me is that when I have decks that I haven't used, and I know that I haven't used in, let's just say, 12 calendar months I haven't used a deck. For some reason, something will happen and I will want to use it. Something will happen in the near future, and I will get it out. I kind of tend to rotate my decks, but then sometimes I don't. Sometimes I never really get to the bottom of the cabinet, And so that's always been kind of an issue, but I do like letting my decks kind of sit, and then it's like a surprise when I get them out, like when I pull them out and I'm like really trying to clean up or really trying to like look through my decks, like in terms of like a play date with them, I'll find one and I'm like, man, I haven't used this. And I'll like use it for a few days, you know, get it back out into the limelight a little bit. And that tends to work for me. It really does, because I fall back in love with it and it's like a shop in my shelves, you know. I really love to do that. So anyways, but I was on the website of Carnival at the End of the World. Now, for me, this is just me, that's a lot of money to put down on a deck. Like, right off the rip, okay? It's hard for me to have 60, 65, 70, depending on what, I don't know what the shipping is for that deck. I know it's a $55 deck. Anyway, I know that, I don't know what shipping is, but I know that in and of itself is a big chunk of money. And right now I'm kind of struggling. We're trying to save for the baby and yada, yada, yada. That's not the issue. The issue is that usually the price tag has something to do with what I buy, first of all. And second of all, even if I know that the freaking deck belongs with me, like Tarot of the Crone, I knew right off the rip, I was like, okay, if I buy no other tarot deck in my life, this has to be mine. And that's how I kind of feel about tarot at the end of the Carnival at the End of the World. And I haven't bought it though. I mean, it's been out for years and I haven't bought it. So I've really been trying to dive with what all this means. What is this trying to say? And so I went over. I don't really have one of those wish lists like on Amazon or even in a notebook. If I'm thinking about a deck, I may write something down like, hey, check this out. But then I'll go check it out. Usually I'll just cross it right off. But then, so I don't really have like a definitive wish list, but I do have three or four decks that are just in my brain wish list right now that I believe if I were to acquire them, my collection would be complete and I would never have to buy another tarot deck again. That's an insane thing to think about. Like, insane. When I really, really thought about it, I was journaling about it. I was, diving deep into what all these decks mean for me, what they could mean for me since I don't own them. And it was really profound to realize that if I were to get these three decks, my collection would probably be complete. I probably wouldn't need any more decks. I would have something in all the genres that I really like to use tarot for. So it's just weird. So I already mentioned Carnival at the End of the World. Now, there's something about this deck. I'm not a typical, okay, I'll say typical because you never really know, okay? You don't really know. You think you don't know. You think you don't like. You da-da-da-da-da, and then you get the deck. It's like hashtag my tarot aesthetic all over again. Because what I found from doing watching all those tags, doing the tag myself, I realized that there's a lot of people that say, this is not my aesthetic, but I really love it. It really works for me. And I think it's because of that pull. You're drawn to certain things. Yes, we all are. We're the magpie in us is drawn to a specific type of aesthetic, a specific type of look. But then it's the ones that we get somehow, usually in a weird way. I've heard some weird stories, like, I don't know why I bought this, kind of a thing. And then you get it and it reads like a dream for you. You're like, I don't ever get floaty messages. Like, all concrete, to the point, what I need in the moment messages. And those decks are not your aesthetic. And I think it's because your brain is like, not overworking, but working in a good way. It's like actually working out the problem because you're not drawn. You're not in a comfort zone with the imagery or the aesthetic. And so it's like that all over again. But every time I get to a place where I'm because sometimes you have like bouts where you're like, let me watch another walkthrough of this. And it's been 6 months since I've watched a walkthrough of the Carnival at the End of the World, right? But sometimes I'll get hit and I'm like, let me just look at another walkthrough. Okay, let me just look it up and see what people are saying about it, and just look at the cards, you know? It's almost kind of like I'm living vicariously. I'm playing with the decks vicariously through someone else. So I typically go to, you know, just some random channel that's doing a flip through, and I'll just like veg out with the flip through. And what I found was, I'm not a typical fan of white space, right? Like I said, this was why I had that rant about tarot aesthetics. I'm not a typical fan of white space, but there's something about the fact that these people are on, like these figures are on rocks or stands. They're like on stands. I don't want to call them pedestals, but they're on their own platform, right? And all the platforms look different, right? There's something about that really makes me think that the white space is the universe, right? And it truly is these people. And every time I watch a walkthrough, I envision, like, I lock into one of the characters, okay? Like I'll probably, usually I end up like pausing it on one of the characters, and I'll just gonna kind of like meditate into it a little bit and say, you know, if this white space, the universe of this figure would look like this, like it, you know, it's blackness and you know, Star Wars stars flying by, and you know, there's this kind of planet floating and this alien ship or whatever. Like, I really dive in the universe, the white space universe. But then when I look at the figure, I think about the fact that this figure, if it was, okay, standing at the edge of its own world, like every figure has its own world. It's not part, all these figures aren't part of one world in my head. I don't know what the creator's vision is, but in my head, they're part of their own separate world, okay? They're these like giants and giantesses of their own space, and they're at the edge. If I was at the edge of my own universe, my own world, what would I see? What would I be standing on? What would I be wearing? And ooh, if you want to dive deep into what you would look like at the carnival at the end of the world, who you would see, what you would be wearing, what your costume makeup would look like, what the ground would look like, you know, like, you really could tap in to archetypes, the archetypes that are in you. And so I don't even have the deck, and I've been having really big, for years, having really big, I don't know, weird little explorations, you know, just from looking at walkthroughs. And so that's definitely a wish list deck that I don't know, I will have eventually, but I don't know why I haven't hit the buy now. Now, it may just be that right now I'm playing with the concepts of the carnival at the end of the world, the fact that I've always wanted to be a carny. It could be the costumes, because the costumes are on point. When I was a teenager for Halloween, I used to make costumes that looked a lot like this, like big heads or big moon headdresses that like were way up here and, you know, had, you know, really fake, you know, funky makeup on and stuff like that. I love costumes. I love costumes. So costumes are my jam. And like, when we get into it, like Venetian carnivals, that's my jam. Masquerade balls. I love having masquerade balls. So all this is my jam anyway. But then the fact that the deck, without me even having it, has some sort of innate ability to conjure images of my end of the world, my own step off into nothingness, is pretty profound. So it just seems like a well-rounded deck for me, and I don't know why I don't have it. Anyway, second deck is well, I mean, there's no like there's no order here, okay? It's not like this is the one I want the most and this is the one I want the least. It's just 3 decks on my wish list at the moment that, not even at the moment, they've been there for years and I haven't pushed the buy now button. I don't know why, but if I were to acquire them, I'm pretty sure my collection's complete. But anyways, so the second one is an Alice Tarot. An Alice in the Wonderland Tarot, okay? Actually, look. Oh, Lewis Carroll. And, oh, I love this leather. Original illustrations, you have to have that, right? But it has Alice's adventures in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass, The Hunting of the Snock, and Phantasmagoria and Other Poems. Thrift books, people. Thrift books. Anyway, got a little tissue here. That's always sitting there. Oh, did you see that? Every time I do that. That cheap little underground light changes. It's weird. It's got a mind. That thing's got a mind of its own. So, and then for the last couple of years, I've really been thinking about which Alice Tarot to get. I think it's called Tarot in Wonderland. It's the tin, like the yellow tin, and it's got like the peppercorns or pepper shakers for wands or some shit like that. I do like that one in terms of what it needs to be for me, like in terms of a Wonderland Tarot. It needs to have a certain aesthetic, because then it would just feels like someone's trying real hard to go down the rabbit hole, but they can't fit through the rabbit hole. So I've been hard pressed to find like one of those Wonderland Tarot, Alice in Wonderland Tarots that I actually jive with. Barbara Moore's Tarot in Wonderland, I don't know their names, they're all different. Wonderland Tarot, blah, 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 blah. Barbara Moore's, the Llewellyn, comes in the Llewellyn box. It's kind of like, it comes in the same kind of thing as the Forest of Enchantment Tarot, like this big box, regular size cards, and these big, juicy, silky books. That one is really, really great. Really, really great. Like, when I see a walkthrough of that, I'm like, because the artwork is beautiful, okay? Really beautiful. And then I really love Llewellyn guidebooks. For some reason, there's just something about having, like, full page, full color, silky pictures. And I just love that. And I love the way they storytell in those types of guidebooks. So it does make you want to like read it like a book. So, and I'm a guidebook person. I like to read the guidebook. So I like that, right? So the Tarot in Wonderland by Barbara Moore is definitely up there too. But then, and like Baba Studios has an Alice Tarot out, I think. I'm not interested in that one. I've never been interested in Baba Studios decks. There's something about the way that they work that I don't like. So I was just not even on the list. And then the last Alice Tarot, I think, is Dame Darcy. Okay? Because this lady, she's actually from here, from my state, from my home state. I often thought about, like, I'll just pop down to Savannah and see y'all hot ass, Let's draw together. But, I know it doesn't work that way. But anyways, so I've got her mermaid deck, which is pretty good. It's definitely on one of those I barely use categories. For no reason other than the fact that, I don't know, there's something about using it in winter that just doesn't feel right, Like, I need to be on a sailboat or on a ship, I need to be by the sea or at the lake, I need to be immersed in like I need to get wet because it's hot and summery. And I have more of a chance at water to see a mermaid, fly out of the water. I have more of an opportunity to see a mermaid at the sea than I would just sitting my ass in this house. So, I tend to get that out in the hotter months, and work with it then. But it is definitely on like the bottom of my pile. Like, you know, like I have it and I like it, but I barely use it. But her Queen, I think her Alice Tarot is called Queen Alice. But it's her style, right? But her comic book style art, whatever, really goes with the aesthetic of Wonderland for me. Now, when I think of Wonderland, I don't necessarily think of it being like surrealist or abstract or blah, blah, blah. Like Barbara Moore's got it going on. You know, you really want to believe that the world exists, but that at any point swirls will come around and it'll fade and you'll wake up, you know, like it has to be a believable dream world. That's what I consider Wonderland to be, where there's, you know, magic and there's lessons, creatures that, you know, you meet, and they're of course archetypes, but all of it has to be present in the tarot deck, right? Now, like I said, Barbara Moore did a great job because they've got, you know, I want the chess board, okay? I don't mean like chessboard, like checkered floor. I mean like the chess pieces. The whole, especially through the looking glass, this is a chess game, okay? You got the white and you got the red, and they're fighting each other, and blah, 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 and you know, you got the creatures that are outside of the chess. Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting excited now. The chess, but it's chess. So you need the knights, okay, because the knights are important, and then you need all the other characters. So when you omit certain things, it doesn't make you look like you know what you're talking about, and that just kind of gets on people's that are really big fans' nerves. So, but Queen Alice, Dame Darcy's Queen Alice Tarot, looks like, from the few walkthroughs I've seen, it does really kind of look like it would do a good job with the with putting the tarot with the characters and the archetypes and the situations that Alice gets put through. All of that seems like it would do well in the Queen Tarot or whatever. Queen Alice Tarot. So if I had to put, I don't know if I could decide which one. I just know that I need a Alice in Wonderland through the looking glass Lewis Carroll tarot deck. I need it in my collection as I am a fan. And I got to thinking about this. It's not because it's themed. Because I'm not a theme, technically. I don't believe I am. I never really thought that I had a theme with my, like, I didn't really like theme decks. So I don't know. But anyway, if it came down to like 2 tarot decks in the Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll category, it would be between Queen Alice Tarot from Dame Darcy and I think it's Tarot in Wonderland by Barbara Moore, Llewellyn. It's between those two. And I could probably get what I need to get out of either one of those. So, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, and then the last tarot deck that's like on my wish list that I believe would complete my entire collection and I wouldn't have to buy any more tarot decks is Tarot of the Sidhe. Now, I don't necessarily have any ties with the Fae or the Sidhe because they're different. Now, sometimes when I get gung-ho and I'm really feeling this season, I'll pull out some hardcore Fae workings around Litha. Because the solstices are powerful for me, both of them. And I tend to do my most workings, tend to get more into the vibe of Sabbats. Because I don't a lot of the time. But the solstices are where I do like probably my most work. And so in Litha, sometimes because I'm feeling it, I'm feeling the energy of the solstice, I'm feeling the, shift, I'll do some fae workings, But I don't really have a tie to the fae or to fairies or to the she. But for some reason, this deck for years has appealed. Maybe it's the art, maybe it's the fact that it is themed, which I never really thought about. But maybe it's, why? Why is it on this? Why is it on this list? And I got to thinking, if I thought about it, it would probably be that I see something of myself in the deck, right? And I think that's why we buy decks. There's something about the fact that either my lineage, where my family and where my ancestors are from, I'm feeling a pull. I'm feeling that pull back there. I'm feeling the energy through the walkthroughs. And I can't really tell, like I said, I can't really tell if it's because of a theme that's running rampant, or if it's the fact that it's the she, the fae, there's fae energy, both of them together coming out. It could be my lineage coming out, but I don't know. I never really sought out or needed to seek out a fae energy deck. I don't have any. I mean, the closest one I have right now is my Force of Enchantment. I don't have any fae energy decks or fae decks or fae themed decks. So why am I drawn to Tarot of the She, right? And then, I try to dive with a few walkthroughs of that as well. There's some wonderful walkthroughs of the old ones, where you took like an hour and a half, especially Kelly over the Truth and Story. Like, she'll take an hour and a half to walk through a deck, really talk about it, and you're just like, So I like the ones where people really talk about the cards. But I don't know, there's something about the deck that makes me feel a little bit closer to nature. But then I'll think about the fact that I made I'm like washed out now. The sun's coming out. It's one of those days where it's like cloudy and it'll be like completely gray and overcast, and then the sun will come out and you don't know what the weather's doing just from looking out your window. You have no idea what's going on. Anyway, I made recently a deck called Wild Nature, Wild You, and it is my deck, you guys. Like, I love it. I love it to pieces. The reason behind making that deck was that I needed something natural, something that looked like nature. Okay, nature as a whole. Tried to embody nature as a whole in some cards, and then put a keyword on each card that could represent a portion of my wild self. And I've always had a pull to my wild self. I've always had a pull to we mirror nature and vice versa, like, as above so below type of a thing. I needed a deck to really represent what that looked like in what I thought that looked like in me. So for the longest time since I made Wild Nature, Wild You, like coming up with what I wanted that to look like for the last couple of years, and then this year making it happen, I don't know. I always thought that if I had a fae or a wildness, like a wild chaos about a deck, that it would come through my Wild Nature, Wild You oracle. So why am I drawn to the wild chaos? To me, Tarot of the She is about the wildness of nature, the wildness of the earth. It's about power. It's about ley lines. It's about really getting in touch with the powers of the earth. And as someone that does that in a spiritual context anyway, I feel drawn to that. But I've always assumed that my deck, the one that I made, Wild Nature, Wild You, would be sufficient enough. Now mine is just nature photographs. I mean, it's, to some of you, that wouldn't be a lot to write home about, but to me, it's really profound that I chose the images, I chose the keywords, wrote the guidebook. It was a deep, profound experience for me to do that. I don't know. I do feel like the deck taps into my wild self, that like, you know, that really deep hair is like stringy and out to here personality that I have. You know, dancing naked around the fire, that type of an energy that kind of just sits there in my soul a lot of times, simmers there. The deck does do a lot, but maybe I'm drawn to Tarot the She for the exact same reasons, but it's tarot. I made an oracle deck, right? So it's one of those I can pull a card a day and really, you know, feel out the keyword or whatever. But maybe I'm drawn to Tarot of the She because that wild chaos is coming through in the form of a tarot deck. I can't figure it out. But then, okay, so let me round out this. I've been rambling for half hour. What if I combined all the energies of these decks? What does this complete collection look like if I were to buy these decks? Like if I was just to say, I got a couple hundred, you know, let me buy all these decks today and be done with it. Can't happen, all right? But let's just, what does it say about me? So to round that out, I thought if we put Carnival at the End of the World, and then we put Tarot in Wonderland by Barbara Moore, I'm just going to go with that one instead of both. Or, you know, Alice in Wonderland, Tarot something, and then Tarot of the She. What do all those have in common? Now, in my own brain, now y'all feel free to tell me what you see in all three of these decks in terms of like commonalities, because that would be fascinating if like you can see something pop out and you're like, oh yeah, that's what that is. Type it in there and let me know. Type it below. But like, I guess it's the wild chaos. It's the chaos of Wonderland. It's the chaos of having this universe that doesn't exist, but it also does exist because you are your universe. You should be your own universe. And then eventually you will stand at the precipice of your own universe and blah, 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 right? So it's the wild chaos that lives in you. So I always assumed that that's what drew all these decks. Umbrella termed all these decks together. I guess I'm going to continue to be drawn to decks that I feel have this energy. And those are the only three that do for me. Now, feel free to leave your, I guess, if you have some ideas as to what, like, wild chaos would look like in a deck, if you've got, like, an idea of what deck that would be, or what your opinion about what that deck looks like, tell me below too, because I'm fascinated. But those are the three decks that sit at the end of my tarot world. And I don't know what that would mean. If my collection is complete, my grotto is complete, will Ariel that lives inside of me be satisfied? There's the question. Anyway, love to hear from you. Love these discussions. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep talking about tarot. We'll keep talking about collecting and culling, because I'm sure that that's not a dying art. And I hope to see everyone again soon. Much love.